So it's interesting that you brought up that basically they flipped the unadjusted exit polling to match the recorded vote. And that's a practice that we've seen play out in this primary here, where it seems like the exit polling is being, forced to match the recorded vote. But what's very, very weird about this is that, first off, we have to understand how important are exit polls to elections, and what can they tell us, and what kind of margins of error should there be between the unadjusted exit poll and the actual recorded vote, and then kind of point us in a direction like of other countries that may use the exit polling and how accurate their exit polling is able to be.
Well, you're asking me a lot of questions there. I'll try to.
Yeah, I kind of front loaded it there.
Okay. I wanted to just reaffirm what I had just stated. You have your unadjusted exit poll, or your so there's two ways of looking at it. In my true vote model, I look at the prior election, how many voted for Bush? Now, those Bush voters come to 2004, but not all of them can come because some are going to die and some are going to stay home. It's pure, simple logic. But when the exit poll shows, and when I ask how did you vote in 2000, the exit poll shows that there were 52.6 million voters returning from 2000 for Bush in 2004, when there could have been no more than 47 million because of what I just told you. In other words, the mortality rate and also the fact that you don't have 100% turnout of living voters. So that proves it right there. And then, plus I gave you the one before that, which proved that they actually had the unadjusted numbers in the national exit poll, which show that Kerry was leading all the way, but they flipped it at the end to match the vote. Now, okay, so why are exit polls important? Exit polls are important for the reasons I just told you, okay? If there's a discrepancy, and there's always going to be some discrepancy between the exit poll and the recorded vote. When there's no discrepancy, or it's within 0.1%, which is what you'll find after they adjust the poll to match the vote, the exit poll look like it's within 0.1% of the actual vote. Well, that's ridiculous. The exit polls are not that accurate. But you do have a margin of error. In an exit poll, the margin of error is based on the number of people that are polled. It doesn't make a difference if you're polling in Wyoming or in California. It has nothing to do with the size of the state, the population. It only has to do with the number who are exit polled. So the margin of error is only a function of if you have 1,000 exit polled in California and 1,000 in Wyoming, they're going to give the same margin of error. Forget about 10 million, 30 million in California and only 1 million in Wyoming or whatever. It's irrelevant. It's only a number that you poll. So the margin of error is a formula. It's based on a formula, which is a little hard to describe, but it involves the number of voters and also the vote share, the exit poll shares between the two candidates. There's a formula, square root formula, and I'm not going to go into it anymore. You have to look it up on Wikipedia, formal definition. The point is this: the exit poll is a guide saying that the results. Let's say Sanders had 52%, and you have an exit poll with a margin of error 4%. That's saying that Sanders, there's a 95% probability that Sanders is going to be within plus or minus 52%. In other words, it'll be from 48 to 56%. So in other words, you get the vote, the exit poll share, and you subtract the margin of error on either side. 95 times out of 100, it's going to, the number theoretically should, the real number should fall within that range. So when you have a situation like we've got in the primaries, you have 11 primaries where Sanders was above the margin of error in his exit poll, okay, and yet he lost the election, okay, or his vote dropped, but he was above the margin of error. So that, even though he might not have won, the fact that he was above the margin of error indicates that he had at least a 97 or 98% chance that the exit poll, the probability of that occurring was like 2% or 1% or 0%. So what I did was I calculated for all the primaries, I've got the exit poll, the final vote, the difference, the margin of error, and the probability that this would occur. Now, what you have is 11 exceeding the margin of error, and the probability, which blows people's minds, but it's true, is 1 in 77 billion. You would expect that in 26 exit polls, only 1 or 2 would exceed the margin of error. 1 or 2.
So you're saying that it's not just that his recorded vote share was actually smaller than what was recorded. I'm sorry, excuse me. His true vote might likely have been higher than what was recorded for the recorded vote. You're saying the likelihood of so many exit polls being outside of the margin of error for the recorded vote is also highly unlikely, especially
177 billion
in this instance. Now, do they all show a pattern? Is it random, or does it all produce the same result?
No, they differ. In some cases, it's just barely above the margin of error. In other cases, it's far above the margin of error. The further it is above the margin of error, the lower the probability. So, but the fact is that what you should have, see, there are 2 things that I calculate. One is disregarding the margin of error. We would expect that the recorded vote would, half the time it would go towards Sanders and half the time it would go towards Clinton from the exit poll. In other words, but when you have 24 out of 26, it's like a basketball player. He's got, let's say he's a bad foul shooter. He shoots 50% at the foul line. And what are the chances that he's going to get 24 out of 26? He's going to sink 25 out of 26 foul shots. Same thing. It's like flipping a coin. 50% probability. The probability in that case is 1 in 190,000.